Mr. President, I rise today to speak about the nomination of Attorney General Scott Pruitt to be the administrator of the Environmental Protection Agency. Mr. President, Scott Pruitt is the right person to run the agency, and we need to confirm him. Over the past 8 years, the political leaders of the EPA have taken actions that have undermined the American people's faith in the agency. They have pushed broad and sweeping regulations that have hurt our economy and have failed to protect our environment. These regulations include the so-called Clean Power Plan. This is a rule that will kill job growth in states like Indiana, Wisconsin, Ohio, and my home state of Wyoming. These also include regulations defining the term waters of the United States. This was a classic example of Washington overreach. The agency brought irrigation ditches, plowed farm fields, and even parking lot puddles under federal control. With both of these rules, dozens of state governments have had to take Washington to court. Why? Well, to try to stop the crippling effects of these Washington-based regulations. The agency's outrageous actions have extended beyond these rules and have had real consequences for many American families. According to the Chamber of Commerce, since 2008, this regulatory rampage by the EPA has destroyed 19,000 coal mining jobs nationwide. In Kentucky, nearly 4 out of every 10 coal mining jobs have disappeared over the past 8 years. Ohio and Pennsylvania have each lost more than 1,000 fossil fuel electric power jobs during the same period. In West Virginia, 5,200 coal mining jobs have vanished just since 2011. The total cost of all of this new red tape from the Environmental Protection Agency is more than $300 billion. The leadership at the EPA has failed. It's failed because a lot of their regulations are bad ideas. And it's not the only way the political leaders at the agency have failed. They've actually hurt people and damaged the environment directly. In 2015, more than 3 million gallons of toxic wastewater spilled into the river at the Gold King mine in Colorado. The government agency charged with protecting our environment actually caused this spill and poisoned a river. This was a direct result of negligence on the part of the Environmental Protection Agency. This plume of toxic liquid flowed downstream to New Mexico and polluted the Navajo Nation's main source of drinking water and irrigation water. In the final days of the Obama administration, the EPA then denied $1.2 billion in damage claims from the farmers, the Native American tribes, and small businesses impacted by the EPA's own negligence. In Flint, Michigan, old pipes and improperly treated water caused lead poisoning in children. When the leadership at the EPA learned of the issue, they failed to respond in a timely manner. The regional EPA administrator actually resigned following the incident. For the last 8 years, the political leaders of this agency have been reckless, irresponsible, and arrogant. Change is badly needed at the Environmental Protection Agency, and Scott Pruitt will be that change. Mr. Pruitt has served as Attorney General of the state of Oklahoma since 2011, 6 years. He's worked to protect the environment in his state while also working for the benefit of all of the people of Oklahoma. He's taken on polluters. He's worked across party lines to do it. When poultry farmers in Arkansas, a neighboring state from Oklahoma, were increasing phosphorus levels in the Illinois River that runs between the states, he worked with Arkansas's Democrat Attorney General on a solution. They found a way to reduce pollution and establish permanent standards. The former Arkansas Attorney General McDaniel, a Democrat, said he called Pruitt a staunch defender of sound science and good policy as appropriate tools to protect the environment in his state. Scott Pruitt also helped negotiate a water rights settlement between the tribes in Oklahoma. The deal will help preserve scenic rivers and lakes so they can be enjoyed for generations to come. Scott Pruitt's also stood up to industry when they have caused pollution. That's why the entire Oklahoma congressional delegation has endorsed his nomination. He's been an advocate for the environment in Oklahoma, and he has been an advocate for the environment in Washington. When the EPA overstepped its mission, Attorney General Pruitt led the charge to rein in big government Washington overreach. Time after time, Scott Pruitt worked with other states to challenge the agency when it exceeded its authority. Under his leadership, this agency will respect the rule of law. Attorneys General from 24 states have endorsed Scott Pruitt as someone who can protect the environment while also protecting state decision-making. He's also won the support of small businesses and farmers around the country. Groups like the National Federation of Independent Business, the United States Chamber of Commerce, the National Association of Home Builders, the American Farm Bureau Federation, and many others have voiced their support for Mr. Pruitt. As president of the Environment and Public Works Committee, I take the nomination process very seriously. Our committee thoroughly vetted Mr. Pruitt. We held a confirmation hearing that lasted more than 6 hours. This is by far the longest confirmation hearing for an EPA administrator on record. During this hearing, Attorney General Pruitt was asked more than 200 questions by members of the committee. We had 4 rounds of questioning. It's an unprecedented number. Our Democrat colleagues on the committee noted during the hearing how fair the process was. They said how much they appreciated the opportunity to ask so many questions. After the hearing, committee members submitted another 1,078 written questions to Mr. Pruitt to answer for the record. Again, this is the most for a nominee to be administrator of the Environmental Protection Agency ever. His answers were thoughtful and they were thorough. That's why I was very disappointed to see the Democrats on the committee decide to boycott the meeting to vote on the Pruitt nomination. The minority complained that he didn't answer enough questions. Democrats have even complained that he has not been vetted thoroughly enough. Mr. President, that's ridiculous. Scott Pruitt is the most thoroughly vetted nominee we've ever had to lead this agency. Democrats are using delaying tactics to slow down the confirmation of many of this administration's most important nominees. These boycotts and these delay tactics do nothing to protect our environment or the health of Americans. Democrats are engaged in nothing more than political theater. They're wasting time while the Environmental Protection Agency needs a new administrator. Attorney General Pruitt has protected the environment in his home state. He is endorsed by his peers, and he has been thoroughly vetted for the job. He will make an excellent EPA administrator. It is time for the Senate to confirm him. And, Mr. President, at this time I would also ask unanimous consent to enter a number of items into the record in support of Mr. Pruitt's nomination, and I will go through those for you, Mr. President. First are 2 op-eds that I have authored. One is from Fox News. It is entitled, For 8 years, the EPA has made life hard for too many Americans. That's about to change. The second is from USA Today, and it's entitled, The Strong Leader the EPA Needs. I'd also like to enter into the record some other items. A letter from Dustin McDaniel. Now, he is a Democrat and Arkansas former Attorney General. In the letter, he writes that he, quote, saw firsthand how Attorney General Pruitt was able to bridge political divides and manage multiple agency agendas to reach an outcome that was heralded by most credible observers as positive and historic. Another item for the record, Mr. President, is a letter from 24 state attorneys general who wrote in support of Mr. Pruitt's qualifications. Also like to submit for the record a letter that I received from J.D. Strong. Now, he is the director of the Oklahoma Department of Wildlife Conservation. In the letter, Mr. Strong directly refutes a New York Times article titled Scott Pruitt Trump's EPA pick backed industry donors over regulators. Mr. Strong writes, as a fifth-generation Oklahoman and someone that has devoted my career to natural resource protection, he says, I take great pride in the progress that has been made in improving Oklahoma's land, air, water, and wildlife resources. He goes on to say, for the past 6 years, Attorney General Pruitt has been instrumental in many of our successes and never asked me to compromise regulatory efforts to benefit industry. Finally, I'd like to include in the record an op-ed by Ed Feit, the former agency administrator of the Oklahoma Scenic Rivers Commission. He writes, Scott Pruitt is one who is committed to finding a balance that protects and preserves our environment, while at the same time affords an opportunity for a robust economy to exist. Achievement of one, he says, does not have to be exclusive of the other. Thank you, Mr. President.